Last time I attended your Dharma talk, you talked about if you want to help people, then there are three things that are necessary. First, the people, they want you to help, and then you need to understand their consciousness, and then you need to use their likes and dislikes to help them. Maybe could you elaborate more about the consciousness part?
Sure. One time years ago, I was talking with Musangsa about helping people, and he said, yeah, if you want to help people, three things are necessary. Just what you said. First, they have to want to be helped. If they don't want to be helped, but you try, no result. Okay? Second, you have to understand the structure of their consciousness. And I believe you asked, can I talk about that more? Okay, so if you look in Compass of Zen, there's one part where Seung Sunim talks about the Mahayana theory of the structure of human beings' consciousness, okay? We have, and this comes from Buddha and the development of Buddhism. I forget whether it's the Yogacarya school or I never can pronounce it right, the Magna school. Yeah, you guys know which one. But one is the school of the middle way, and one is the school, emptiness in the middle way, and the other is the basic Mahayana teaching on mind alone, okay, and the nature of human consciousness. And those two theoretical developments feed directly into Zen Buddhism. Zen is just do it, but the philosophical foundation comes from those two schools. So one of them talks about the teaching that, okay, we have eyes, the physical thing here, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So those are called the 6 roots, okay? Without that, you can't see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or have a single thought. So those are the roots. Then they connect with, you could say, this isn't quite right, but you could say they connect with this world, and so you have the 6 perceptions, which is color. Most people think we see forms, but I experience this. We see color. And at night, what we see basically is black, white, and shades of gray. And your brain makes it into forms according to our intention. Just like this, a frog can be sitting someplace and it's hungry. And there might be a fly, which frogs will eat, sitting on a leaf. If the fly doesn't move, the frog won't know what it is. Even though it can see it, it will have no idea what it is until it moves. Even the frog wants to scratch its legs. The fly scratches its legs, the frog gets it. Or stretch its wings, gets it. So our interaction with this world is based on our intentions, even the physical experiences. So I see color. Ears, that's why our teaching is floor is yellow, okay? Floor is thinking. Yellow is the word to express this color. So color, sound, smell. One thing that used to strike me a lot is, we're in the temple. Nobody or almost nobody, wears cologne or perfume, right? But if you go to the city, sometimes I would always be amazed. I'm walking down the street, and this perfume cloud goes by, And I turn, and some woman has sprayed a cloud around her, and you catch it. Just like we don't smoke cigarettes here, right? But if you walk past somebody who's been smoking, especially if you don't smoke and you've stayed in the temple, you catch it right away, odor, okay? So eyes see color, ears hear sound. One reason I love that we chant not everything in English is because lots of times I don't know what it means, but that's not important for meditation. It can help our direction, but for meditation, all you have to do is hear sound. Mahabanya paramilta. Yeah, if I think about it, I remember Maha means big, Prajna means wisdom, Paramita means like virtue. Yeah, but before you think about those things, you hear the individual sounds. So your ear and sound become one. So color, sound, smell, odor, taste, feeling, and some thought, okay? Object of mind, which we create ourselves. So 6 roots, 6 dusts or perceptions, 6 consciousnesses. Even if you have an eye, even if the world has color, if you don't have an eye consciousness, you'll be blind. You won't see. Same thing, sound. If you don't have ear consciousness, won't hear. If you don't have nose consciousness, won't smell, and each of those things. So 6 roots, this bodily form, 6 perceptions, 6 consciousnesses make what Buddha called 18 realms. So human being has 18 realms. And if they're all there, that's just grouped together into the simple phrase, 6 consciousnesses. So when a baby's born, unless there's something wrong with one of those 6, then the baby's 6 consciousnesses are working already, okay? Then there's something that in the analysis of the human being experience called 7th consciousness. 7th consciousness is discriminating consciousness, likes and dislikes. I want, I don't want. I can, I can't. That doesn't begin to appear until about 1 year old or 2 years old. So I always give this example. For example, a baby picks up a fork, which has these sharp edges, and is playing with it. Then the mother sees that and doesn't want the baby to play with the fork. It might hurt itself. So it takes away the fork. The baby starts crying. Then gives the baby a spoon. Soon the baby forgets about the fork. So the baby wants something, but it doesn't have attachment yet. Because when you change it, it soon forgets, okay? Your girlfriend or boyfriend breaks up with you. If you could just forget like a baby, there's 4 billion more women in the world. There's 4 billion more men. You're going to run into somebody. But we don't forget. We hold on. That's 7th consciousness. Then big suffering appears. So around 1 or 2, this opposite thinking, it comes from opposite thinking. Me and you. I and the world. Want and don't want. I remember this really funny little video where there's this little kid. He can sit up. It's a Chinese thing. A little Chinese kid, he can sit up, but it looks like he doesn't know how to talk yet. And the mom takes a slice of a lemon and she puts it in the kid's mouth, and the kid is like this, and the mom's sort of laughing, like the kid never tasted lemon before. And then the kid kind of calms down, and he looks at mom, and he touches her hand, like he wants to try it again, And so the mom sticks it in his mouth, and he's like, but he wants to try it again, It's just, he's interested. He has don't know mind. Also, little kids, you put something in their mouth, either they are curious about it or they spit it out. There's no thinking, I like it, I don't like it. It's just pure react, pure reflect. But around 1 or 2, opposite thinking appears. Maybe they see a lemon, they know right away they don't want it, Or they see something, we're like this. We see chocolate, we want it right away, okay? So this is talking about the structures of our consciousness. Then one more step, that's called 7th consciousness, discriminating consciousness, opposite thinking. One more step, around 3 or 4 years old, 8th consciousness appears. And you can really get into the explanations for this and get lost in there. So it's lucky we're Zen students, a little taste of explanation, and then live, and then, get it. You don't need to study all the words too much, but you have to be able to connect with experience. 8th consciousness is called alaya consciousness, and it's also called storehouse consciousness. The way Seung would explain it is like a tape recorder. It records every single experience. And actually, what's recorded in there starts to color and affect the 7th consciousness. The 7th consciousness affects our experience of the 6 consciousnesses, okay? So if you have a strong like and dislike, even you see something, you may react to it even though you didn't really see it clearly, because you have a strong like and dislike. And you can mishear people. You can miss what you see, misinterpret it, because the 7th consciousness isn't clear or empty. It will affect how you see things. One good example I used to give is, you really want to be in love, okay? Somebody comes up to you, you meet, I love you. Those words, if you have this strong desire, just take your mind. Then 20 years later, mistake, and then you got to get divorce lawyers, and what are you going to do about the kids, and then the property, and it's a big mess, okay? Human life. But if you're really clear and somebody says, I love you, you may pick up quickly on what they mean by that. I want to use you for something, or I want to trick you, or I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Then, if you're really clear, no thank you, no problem. So 8th consciousness doesn't really appear till 3 or 4 years old. If you really focused on something one life, when it appears next life, or when you get to be 3 or 4, it'll appear again. And the Tibetans say, whatever you're carrying in there when you die, that will lead you to your next life. So the aim is, make it empty. Or at least don't be attached to what's in there. Some people won't realize, that's my way. Playing the piano, dancing or something, until they're well in their adulthood. Grandma Moses was this famous painter in America. She didn't start painting till she was 70 years old. But suddenly, this painting thing appeared. She raised her family, grandchildren, and she's not dead. What am I going to do? I want to paint. And she became kind of famous. Anyway, Mozart. What happens with Mozart? He's like 3 or 4 years old. He hears something, he can play it. And the father notices that right away and starts training him. And Mozart died when he was 33, I think. That is 8th consciousness. And 8th consciousness strongly affects 7, and 7 strongly affects all the 6 consciousnesses. And where does this come from? It comes from number 6, the object of thinking that we create ourselves. And 7th, and when you're a little baby, no problem. 7th and 8th aren't functioning. And you don't really have words. So this isn't hindering seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling. But once we begin to have words and seventh and eighth consciousness appear, they control object of thought, what appears in your mind. So when we're hitting that thought in the object of mind. And if you hit it, seventh consciousness isn't controlling it, eighth consciousness isn't controlling it. Then eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind reflect clearly. Okay? So what is different people's eight consciousnesses? Some people, very physical. Many Americans are like this. Number one thing is the physical effect of life, okay? Some people, too emotional, very strong like and dislike. Good, and then the worst thing you can do is make good and bad, because when you do that, you're further and further away from reflecting clearly, purely, okay? And so if you understand, some people, lots of eighth consciousness. One of our American monks grew up Jewish, didn't go to synagogue or anything, but he said, a little crazy sometimes, schizophrenic sometimes, but he told me anytime he went with Seung to visit Germany, he said it was like World War II in his brain. And he couldn't just relate to the people who were in front of him right then. Some years after practicing, we were there together, and he said, now no problem. So something from the eighth consciousness kept jumping in and tainting his eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So it's important to understand, when you want to help somebody, how these eight consciousnesses are functioning in this person. Some people, this before life stuff that's in their brain is too strong and taints everything. Somebody else, too much like and dislike, then taints everything. Some people may be too physical. Also, sometimes these three consciousnesses, six consciousness, seven consciousness, eight consciousness, separate, don't function together. Then that's when a demon can come in and control. Demons is a consciousness that can't get a body because of some bad karma. You know, psychology explains it their way, but the old style is demon energy, you know. But the important point is there's some separation. So how do we use practice in those kind of things? When you just chant, just hear the sound. And you know, we can chant, hear the sound, make the sound, and think something. But when you try just make sound, hear, make sound, hear, that brings sixth, seventh, and eighth all together, one consciousness. Only Kwanzaa Bozo, Kwanzaa Bozo, Kwanzaa Bozo, Kwanzaa Bozo. So they become unified. And then if you're not attached to the object you're using, Kwanzaa Bozo, Jijang Bozo or something, your eight consciousness will function clearly. Then wisdom can appear. I've told this story a few times. After Seung had been in America, even 5 years, there were like 6 Zen centers, 4 on the East Coast, 2 on the West Coast, also Zen groups in Toronto and Chicago and Kansas and Colorado and Seattle. And Seung would stay on the East Coast 2 months, travel to the different Zen centers, lead a 3-day retreat every single weekend. Then he'd go across the country doing something at each of the groups, and then on the West Coast for 2 months, traveling between places, always based in Korean temple in LA or in Providence Zen Center. And I went to live at the Providence Zen Center on purpose because I thought Seung spends more time there than any place else. And later, when I decided to move, I went to the Korean temple in LA because that's the second place he spends the most time. Okay? But in any case, even after a few years, the East Coast Zen centers and the West Coast Zen centers are fighting. We didn't have a quantum school of Zen. Everything went through the director of Providence Zen Center. If you wanted to invite Sahn Sunim, you contacted her. When it was time to make tickets and everything, it went through her. When Sahn Sunim wanted to say, oh, now we must, the head monk during walking meditation carries the stick. We put it on the altar, but originally they carried the stick. And if they wanted to go to the bathroom, they gave the stick to whoever was behind them. Even if it was a brand new student who would be like, it was great, actually. And so if there was some change in the style, Sahn Sunim would tell the secretary would contact everybody. So right away, the West Coast starts feeling like, why do they control everything at PZC? Typical stuff. And soon everybody's fighting, the East Coast and the West Coast. So one day, somebody asked Sahn Sunim, we all practice Buddhism to get world peace, but we're already fighting each other after only 6 years. Why is that? Then Seung Sahn Sunim said, West Coast people in America have many, many opinions, but they don't hold them strongly. East Coast people have very few opinions, but they hold them very strongly. That's all. So when I heard that, I thought, oh. Then I had an experience one day, some years later. One of our monks in Korea was talking about a monk in another part of the world, another brother monk. And he was saying, never want to talk to that person again. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can kind of understand that. And then 2 days later, he's like, hey, that guy sent me an airplane ticket. I'm going to go visit him. And my first thought is, 2 days ago, you're telling me I hate this person and everything. And now it's like, hey, I got a ticket, I'm going to. And then I realized, I'm East Coast person. He's a California person. What he said 2 days ago has no meaning to him now. But what Sahn Sunim said helped me understand, and I was like, hey, cool, have a good time, that sounds great. So if we develop correct view, then our habits don't control us. Sahn Sunim had that. But we usually have a hard time getting that because the contents in our eighth consciousness, seventh consciousness are very strong. As they appear in life, they taint the functioning of the six consciousnesses. And we just don't see the situation clearly, but we have great belief in our view. So we don't see, oh, that's my opinion. We see, that's truth. So that's what it means, understanding. Somebody's too emotional. You have to understand that. Somebody else too much holding something, okay? Somebody else, little broken consciousness. Actually, in Korean Buddhism, if you really have that broken consciousness, best practice is Kido. If you sit, your brain just will fly all over the place. Bowing's not bad, but Kido, you're using your body and you're using your voice and your ears. It's the best way to bring everything back to one. Then if this one becomes clear, it's sunny today. And inside, like I came up here, I'm not here that much during the retreat. I mean, I'm here, but I'm not in the sampang or chant. Maybe later I'll be able to go join chanting or something, and none of the meals. And I walked in and I thought, this is a great room. This is a great room, and it's air conditioned. And my first thought was, why doesn't everybody just live here and only go out when it's time to eat or go to the bathroom or change your clothes? But it's not so comfortable for sleeping. When I moved in Providence Zen Center, I had done three-day retreats, and I called them up. I quit my job, and I said, I want to go live in the Providence Zen Center. And they said, they knew me by then, and they said, will you come up here and stay 2 weeks, and then we can decide. So at that time, there was a closet in the meditation room. Actually, everything was done in one room. So you were told, keep your stuff in the closet, and if you don't have a sleeping bag, here's a sleeping bag, sleep in the meditation room for 2 weeks, and then we'll talk with you. Do you still want to move in? Also, do we think it's possible and it'll work? So I did that, and then they gave me a room, and I kept sleeping in the Dharma room for 2 years. It was great. And that's why I wear beads, because I had so much thinking, every time I'd see the beads before I sleep, just when I wake up is, it reminds you, put your mind right on your practice immediately, okay? Anyway, this is a nice room. So come up here as much as you can. And I'll be downstairs in my room doing the same thing probably you're doing. Thinking and practicing. And the more it's practice mind, the better your life is, and the more it's thinking mind, the more heart training necessary. Okay? So that's the point. Then you can also use likes and dislikes. But if you think about it, it's all too late. Okay? Oh, what's the structure of his consciousness? Just get to know yourself, and you already heard the principle, and it's pretty obvious,